Hello, welcome and bienvenidos. I'm Justine Gonzalez, sometimes occasional host of the Cultural Capacity Podcast, as well as founder of Educator Aid Incorporated. We actually just launched this podcast publicly in December of 2021, and I am happy to thank you today and let you know that so far, according to the Apple Podcast rankings, this podcast is now in the top 25 for the category of self-improvement, as well as the top 50 in education in Mexico. So shout out to our listeners and subscribers who are devoted to their personal growth as well as professional development through this podcast. All right, so let's kick it off with no further ado and how I want to typically do this when we have guests, because I do not want to be the only voice here, certainly. And I want to offer people this platform to really talk about things that are their expertise as well as their passions. So, without further ado, in today's episode, we're featuring Kara Gonzalez-Howard, who used to work for a large healthcare system in the United States, not only as a registered nurse, but would go on to work at the college level as a nurse educator, has multiple certifications, including in suicide prevention, and also now serves on the board for a nonprofit serving multiple communities with accessible and equitable mental health services for young children all the way up to adults and families. And of course, outside of serving on a nonprofit currently, she is a major contributor. And my company, Educator Aid Incorporated, is actually a current client of hers. She does a lot with creative learning design for multiple clients, as well as being a published author, mother of three, as well as mother of three humans, a mother of two dogs, and also a wife of one husband. What else can I say about my sister other than I love her dearly and she's my best friend? She also produces a sketch comedy series called Let's Go to the Mall Live. What else can I say? There are many, many talents, though, that my sister has to offer, and I am just so glad to welcome her as the first featured host of the Cultural Capacity Podcast. Let's hop into it. Welcome and bienvenidos to Cultural Capacity, a podcast sponsored by Educator Aid Incorporated, where our team is committed to supporting individuals and organizations on their journey of self-aware leadership, emotional wellness, and development of effective cross-cultural communications. Let's get ready to explore the following topics together by biting into them with little pieces that go really deep to examine ourselves. Topics like bias, culture, cultural psychology, cultural neuroscience, diversity, equity, inclusion, and racial equity. Our episodes are all 10 minutes or less and intended to serve as introspective tools for you as the individual leader or the teams that you're leading. Be sure to check out the links in the podcast description where you can sign up for our free quarterly subscription, Better Community, as well as tap in and submit your questions via the voice message button. Let's get ready to learn together.
Hi, I'm Kara Gonzalez-Howard, one of the regular contributors at the Cultural Capacity Podcast. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about my experience with developing a rhythm of productivity in my world as an entrepreneur. I was a nurse for almost 20 years, and about 6 months ago, I quit my nursing career completely. This was a very difficult decision as it was something that I felt was a calling on my life for a very long time. Some dynamic shift within my environment, and I decided that I needed to leave. This was for my own social, physical, emotional well-being. Many things contributed to this decision, and I am so thankful that things played out in the way that they did. One of the ways that I came to the realization that I wasn't getting enough rest within my life was simply by physical symptoms that I was experiencing on a regular basis, such as joint pain, excess fatigue, even when I felt like I'd gotten enough good sleep, quote unquote, at night. My diet wasn't great. My exercise levels were not where I wanted them to be. Not because I didn't want to be a healthy person, mind, body, and spirit, but because I wasn't allowing myself the time or luxury to do those things for myself. Especially in these industries that we get into, when we're constantly caring for other people, we often forget or feel guilty about taking time for ourselves. I want to talk a little bit today about the rhythm that we create our lives around, rather than having life create a rhythm for us. The first thing that I want to recognize is the importance of rest. So this is kind of, when I visualize this, it's kind of a circle, and rest is at the very, very top of the circle. I'm going to be going around clockwise as I talk about these. You can jot these down on a piece of paper, or you can simply listen, whatever's helpful for you. Again, this is a practice and something that most of us have to unlearn, the way that we hustle around and don't value rest. So try to get in the space of remembering that the key to your well-being is your rest. When I talk about going into rest, I'm not necessarily talking about getting good sleep. That's just a must. That's a necessity. When I talk about rest, it's unplugging from things and unwinding in the ways that you feel alive. The second thing on the circle of the cycle is listening. So when we get in the state of rest, oftentimes it allows us a different perspective. It allows us space to be with our own thoughts and emotions. If you believe in a higher power, this is a time often we call prayer meditation, in which we're receiving information in different ways, whether that's going out for a long walk and observing the world around us and the miracles that exist, or that's just simply kind of decompressing and debriefing with yourself through journaling or art, or whatever capacity you kind of debrief in. Could be creating music, or simply sitting with yourself, enjoying a book that you want to enjoy, seeing what comes up for you as you're doing your play. This is kind of the play/listening phase. The third thing that's important to have within this cycle is then a plan and execution. You have to plan to execute your strategy that you come up with in your preparation phase, right? So we've done the resting part, we've done the listening part, and now we kind of feel revived, rejuvenated, and we're ready to prepare to execute whatever it is that we're working on. The preparation phase can get a little bit tedious for some people. The preparation phase can feel really overwhelming at first. It can feel very daunting. I like to ease into this from my listening phase by simply kind of starting, this sounds really silly, but starting with one tiny step, right? And then I look at the situation where I'm at the end of that tiny step, and then I do the next tiny step. So it's really, in order to avoid overwhelm, it's really essential that we do the preparation and the mental work around this step. The final thing that you need to work on integrating into kind of your cycle of life, this can be day to day, week to week, month to month, however you kind of do this within your life. Sometimes in our lives, we're going to have more time and space for these things. But especially if you're looking to branch out of your comfort zone, these are essential to integrate. The last and final stage of this is execution. So during this stage, it sounds like exactly what it is. You had a vision or a plan for something, and you're bringing it to fruition. Sometimes this can feel like anticlimactic in some ways. Some people during this phase experience the extreme highs of feeling accomplished and feeling like they put something into the world that they're proud of. Other times it can be a little bit of a letdown, like you're working, all this preparation, and then the moment comes and maybe it didn't live up to your expectation of what you thought it would feel like. Either way, you're going to go right back around the circle, and what's next is your resting phase. Again, in this phase, you're going to use it for rest. You're going to decompress, debrief, remove yourself, And then once you get again into your listening phase, this is a time to debrief maybe some of that execution of your project that you just finished, or your event that you just finished, or your whatever fill in the blank that you just worked toward and finished. This listening phase then becomes a time also to incorporate debriefing from your previous experience. So I find this helpful within my own journey into the entrepreneurial space. I have been dabbling in some art projects and some different things that are way outside my comfort zone, at least at this point in my life. And it's given me room to really explore in a way that doesn't feel frantic or contrived, and helps me approach the world in the way that I need to approach it, which is from a place of wholeness rather than a place of feeling frantic and burnout. Thanks for listening. We certainly all have ways of dealing with different distractions and goal setting and all the different things we need to worry about in our life. I hope this gives somebody some clarity on how to kind of structure time in a world where rest truly is not valued, and it really is the solution to a lot of the things that we struggle with on a day-to-day basis. I hope this was helpful, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for showing up for yourself today and tuning in to this episode of the Cultural Capacity Podcast. We're glad you're here. If you found value in this episode, be sure to share out with your social networks. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a review on Apple. You know, all the things. Finally, don't forget to take advantage of our free quarterly subscription that is in our podcast description. The link is right there. It's called Better Community, and we would love to have you join us there too. Until next time, take care.